and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not going to happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not. Breakdowns, it's certainly not something I experience. It's not because I'm so talented or so brilliant or so fearless. It's just, you're like an athlete. You're an athlete. Yeah. You're in shape, right? You're not going to have a reaction in your body like somebody who doesn't take care of themselves. Right. So, you know, I don't believe in emotional intelligence. I think it's useful, but I'm more interested in emotional fitness, because intelligence is a capability. Fitness is a state of readiness. Interesting. If you are fit, you can take that demand right now and you can deal with it. You can deal with that physical stress, that emotional stress. Same thing's true with psychological fitness, emotional fitness, right? So I'm pretty fit. And part of that is not because I'm so smart. Part of it is that I've taught this for decades. I remember I had a woman who came to one of my seminars in her, I don't know, early 80s probably. And she would run in this room, 5,000, 10,000 people. I think it was, you know, she went a couple of 10,000 person events. And she would get in this front row and fight her way through there. And she'd jump and go for it. And at one break, she came up to me, I was signing a book for her, and she says, she goes, Mr. Robbins, I've seen you at like 8 of these. She goes, I've seen you like when you're really, I know, I can hear your voice, you're hurting or you haven't slept. And she goes, you always seem to be so up all the time. How come you're so up? And I said, well, part of it is I attend all these seminars. So I'm teaching it. So there's a fitness in that. But there's also, you know, I've buried 3 fathers and 1 mother, and, you know, that affects your life. I've had a physician look me in the eye and say, you have a tumor in your brain. Wow. And so I've had those moments that when you've had extreme stress and you push your way through it, you build psychological muscle. It's like, it takes a lot to knock me off. You know, in the early days, we didn't have $50,000 to keep the doors open. How do we do it? Then I had, you know, graduated to $5 million. I graduated to a partner that mine who kind of didn't do things well, and I ended up owning $100 million because I had to take on his debts. $100 million. But when you do all that stuff, you know, now my companies do $5 billion, you know, a year. So you keep expanding what I would call really the circle of the threshold of your influence. Sure. You know, everybody has a threshold of control, and if you get beyond it, you kind of freak out. So it takes a little bit more. I can't. So you don't have breakdowns. I don't have a breakdown. Do I get pissed off or get frustrated or tired? Yeah, but a breakdown, honestly, no. So how do you handle it if you get tired of something? I sleep when I can. Okay, cool. I mean, it's honestly, it's pretty simple. But you know, when I've had challenging times, I mean, I have so many tools. Yeah. You know, I pull them out. And mostly it's just like you as an athlete. You know, you don't just physically break down. Right. You take care of yourself. So you're constantly training that. I think most people don't train their mind and emotions. It's like, I think the most powerful muscles to me are not physical, they're as strong as important as they are. It's like faith is a muscle, courage is a muscle, determination is a muscle, playfulness is a muscle. You know, passion unexpressed weakens. You know, faith untested gets smaller. Yeah. So I'm always, I call it deep practice. I'm always pushing myself to the edge, and pushing yourself to the edge makes you stronger.
You know, I think I could boil it down probably to 3 or 4 words: money, power, ego, habit. That's a short answer. A friend of mine who is my friend until we have this conversation in academia, I've asked him once, I said, why evolution, for example? The DNA evidence, very recent, in the last 5 years, the DNA evidence no longer supports the theory of evolution as the mechanism for human origins. Evolution is a fact. And I want to be very clear about that. As a geologist, I've seen it in the fossil record, plants, animals, insects, some primates. Something happened 200,000 years ago, and the theory breaks down when it comes to humans. And the DNA shows us that. The DNA shows us very clearly that we did not descend from the...
Well, of course there are. You know, half the planet lives on $2.50 a day. The challenge is the people that complain that they're the 99% against the 1% are actually the 1%. He goes, Tony, what are you talking about? Those people down there who were in those tents downstairs, you know, a few years ago, and if you watch them typing on their iPhones and having a Starbucks drink, they think that they are really suffering. But in reality, if you're in poverty in this country, you're in the 1% of earners in the world. You're the top 1%. So if you really care about the 1%, you got to care about everybody. But the real challenge, I think, is not so much money as it is that the world has changed. If you are a blue-collar worker, if you're an unskilled worker, meaning you're not tech-oriented, you're not cognitively driven in your job, you're going to have trouble. And I don't care what the politicians say about bringing these jobs back. There are no jobs to bring back. And the reason is because technology is making labor less valuable. And that's why jobs don't produce as much unless you're high cognitive, high decision making, high tech. Those people have no problem. There's a 1% unemployment for people who make $100,000 or more. It's so tiny because they've learned to become more valuable. I always tell people the most valuable lesson I got from my mentor, Jim Rohn, was I asked my father worked 2 jobs. We were always broke. We had no money for food. And we lived in a community we moved to, which was, I thought they were all rich and we were on the other side of the tracks. It was lower middle class, but compared to where we lived before, these people seem rich compared to us. And I just didn't understand it. And Jim said to me, Tony, it's not about the value of your soul. It's about the value of you in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And your father's skills are not that valuable. He was an underground parking attendant, and he would take people's ticket and make change. Well, the research now shows it's being done at Yale, it's being done overseas in England as well, and they found that 40% of all jobs they project in the next 10 years are going to disappear because of technology. It's going to be replaced by an algorithm, it's going to be changed. You know, all these guys on Wall Street, you're seeing all these algorithms take over and they're getting rid of all these traders, right? It's changing radically in these hedge funds. There's 3 million truck drivers. Self-driving cars are here. In the next 5 years, they will be the standard, certainly within 7 or 8 years. Are you going to hire someone who can only work 8 hours a day and sometimes gets drunk or can make a mistake when you can buy a machine, write down the machine, and be in a position where it works 24 hours a day driving? But no one is telling these drivers this, and they have to retool now. So technology is the biggest challenge. Labor is less valuable because of efficiencies with technology, and it's going to get better and better for technology, which is scary when you think about what's going to happen for jobs. So I say to people, you got to participate in your own rescue. You've got to retool yourself. The idea that Bernie Sanders has of providing free education sounds wonderful, but the education he wants to do is community college. There are no skill sets in community colleges today, for the most part, that are going to prepare you for the economy or a job that's there. So what is that going to do? You're just going to waste more money, more time. We need to retool ourselves. The government's not going to do it for you. And a great leader in a company is retraining their people all the time. The training never stops, because that is the innovative, creative marketing edge, is your own people.
Most companies do less training today than they did 20, 30 years ago.
It's crazy.
So where do you get the training?
I think they have to self-educate. I mean, I'm an example of that myself. You have to say, what's an area that I want to become masterful in? Because dabblers will never have any financial freedom. You know, if you're going to run a company, you got to find what is your niche. What is it you're going to do better than anybody else? Every one of us individuals have to say that and then say, now, where do I get that education? In the world that we live in today with the internet, where there's education from all over the world, from MIT, from Harvard, online, and there are people you can go to work for who you could become a mentee of. There's just so many approaches, but you can't have a standard education.
Neanderthal, for example, their genome, we can now rebuild their genome and compare theirs to ours. We can actually, sounds like Jurassic Park, the movie. Science fiction, but it's science fact. We can pull the DNA.
Check your percentage of Neanderthal in
We can pull the DNA from the bone marrow of fossilized remains of beings that we are supposed to be descended from and compare their DNA to ours. We didn't descend from Neanderthal, and it shows that we did appear on Earth about 200,000 years ago.
Where did we come from?
Okay. Well, to answer the question, why aren't we sharing this? When I asked my friend at the university, I said, why can't you share this with your students? And he said, Greg, you don't understand. He says, if I shared that, he said, it would invalidate my 40-year career as a professor. And I said, no. I said, it would do just the opposite. It would demonstrate to your young students how valid and relevant science is, because it's designed to be constantly updated, and you're doing that. It wouldn't invalidate. He said, well, think how much money it would cost to change the textbooks. And I said, my brother, I said, you're living in the Stone Age. They're not using textbooks. You change it on the server. and you've changed it everywhere. And he said, well, think of all my class notes I would have to change. And I said, well, that's your job. But that was an example for me of, it's a habit. It's a habit, but it's also threatening. And this is why I think it's so important, Brian. It's more than a philosophical conversation. As we globalize, as we push ourselves together and we see the fear of what that means, cultures coming together in different ways of thinking, we also see a rise in hate. And hate is only possible because of a way of thinking. Rachel Carson was an author in the 1960s. She wrote Silent Spring. She was one of the first environmental authors about the use of the pesticide DDT back in the 1960s. And she made a statement. I read this when I was a kid, and it was so powerful. She said, we only destroy the things that we don't value. We have been taught that human life has very little value through the theory of evolution, that we are a random process, genetic mutations. The textbook says that life is a behavior pattern that chemical systems exhibit when they reach a certain level of complexity. That's the definition of life that we're giving to our young people in school today. And it is such a sterile definition. It leaves no room for the specialness and the preciousness of life. And so our young people, through the video games that are very heartless, very violent, through the media, through the television, where are we instilling into our young people how precious and special life is? And if we're going to change that, when we begin to see what the DNA is telling us, it tells us something far beyond random genetic mutations is responsible for us. And that's, I think, where the change in thinking must begin.
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that question. That one of my answers for people, when they say, hey, how can I get better at detaching and control my emotions? I tell them to start training jiu-jitsu. Because you're gonna get tapped out in jiu-jitsu. Your ego is gonna get smacked around so hard, you're gonna lose your mind. And the madder you get, the more aggressive you are, the more you're gonna get beat down, and the worse it's gonna be. So you have to learn to control your emotions. No doubt about it. And then what you have to do is you have to start practicing it all the time. You have to start paying attention to the red flags that go up when I start raising my voice at you. I go, oh, that's your emotion. Get mad. And for me, like the minute I feel some sort of anger, some sort of jealousy, some sort of frustration, most of the time I go, oh, you're getting mad. That's your ego. You're getting emotional about this. Take a step back and listen to what the other person's saying. Take a step back and try and see it from their perspective. Take a step back and try and understand what they're trying to say. Because sometimes, if you're not a very articulate person, you're just making me mad. It's only because I don't understand what you're trying to say. Take a step back. Let's talk through it. So pay attention to, I always talk about when you're sending an email to someone and you're typing like this, don't send that email. That's not a good email to send. That's an emotional email. Wait, write it out, fine, and then save it and read it later, and you'll realize, oh yeah, I was really mad about something, or I was really frustrated. So how do you do it? You practice it. You pay attention to your emotions and you get control over them. Have kids. If you have kids, you'll have to learn to get control of your emotions.
How do you gain influence and respect? Like, what's that process?
Very similar to when we talked about trust and building trust and giving trust. If I want to gain the ability to influence you, well, then what I have to do is give you the ability to influence me. And when I say, hey, here's what we're trying to make happen. Here's what I want to do. And you say, well, I think we should do it like this. You know what I should say? Okay, well, let's take a look at that. The more I allow you to influence me, the more open your mind gets for me to influence you. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna allow you to influence me, and the more I allow that to happen, the more influence I'm gonna have. Respect, same thing. If I treat you like you're a plebe, like you don't matter, you're not gonna respect me at all. But if I treat you with respect, and respect you when you try and talk to me, I listen and I respect what you're saying and I try and understand it fully, then your respect for me is going to go up as well. So when you want to earn respect, give respect. When you want to earn influence, give influence. When you want to earn trust, give trust. All those three are related.
Whatever position you're at, you want to be the bull. And I don't care if you're in the mail room or if you're the person behind that camera, that I'm going to be better than anybody else with that camera, and I'm going to be the best mail carrier and the person who comes up and is the most organized and does it the most professional way. You can be the bull at any position you're doing, and it's just telling yourself, I'm going to do this better than anybody else. I don't care what the job is. I don't care what you do. You be the bull at what you do. It's just the sport of this is what I do every day. And people say, why do you do this? And I just said, because what would I do? I mean, if I can't come to the office and solve problems and fight with everybody and conquest something, you know, conquer, then what am I going to do with myself? I'm going to sit home and die? I mean, that's what I enjoy doing. This is my basketball. This is my game that I play. This is my pickup Monopoly game, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I love going to the office and leading people and trying to conquer something. That's what I enjoy doing. It's sport. Totally, you're exactly right. This is steps to get to the next level. Now, if I don't pull any of that off, have I reached that point in life where I'm happy? Yeah. I don't feel like, after I bought the Houston Rockets, and once again, who gets to own 100% of their team in their hometown? There's probably not, of all the major 100 sports teams, there's probably not 5. So I feel very fortunate. So if nothing else is accomplished, do I feel pretty good? I feel okay. I really do. I really do. And I thank the good Lord and all the people that helped me accomplish it. But what you just said is happening. I'm taking the next steps right now to get to the next level.
I was really interested in that issue of people mistreating themselves, because we are privy to our own weaknesses and faults. We know them better than anyone else knows them. And so it's very easy for us to determine that we're not worthwhile because of all the ways that we don't live up to what we should live up to, and the painful knowledge we have of that, and to not regard ourselves as worthwhile and to not treat ourselves properly. And that's not good. You have to treat yourself as if you're valuable. And then that is the same attitude that you extend to other people. Well, and it's because you are valuable, and that it's a necessity to adopt the responsibility that goes along with recognizing that. So even if you're not happy with who you are, and even if you have your reasons, you still deserve presumption of innocence. You still deserve to have a good defense mounted on your own behalf. You still need to treat yourself as if you're someone valuable and someone worthy of love, even though you have all reasons to know why you fall short. And that's absolutely crucial, and it is hard for people to learn that. Hard for them to learn not to beat themselves up too much.
Every relationship that you have in your life, or that you've ever had in your life, with every single person, is a reflection of the relationship that you are having with yourself. People come into our life, into our experience, to show us, to demonstrate, to reflect and mirror back to us the places and pieces and parts of ourselves that we cannot see, are unwilling to see, that we deny or dismiss or ignore. Every relationship in your life is a reflection of the relationship that you're having with yourself. Now, right now, if you're having some resistance to that, if you're thinking about your ex or your ex-mother-in-law or your girlfriend or somebody that betrayed you, and your mind is telling you that can't be true, that's not right, that's it. That's it right there. Because there are parts of us, there are things about us that we simply cannot see. Sometimes we don't want to see. Sometimes we see and then we ignore or deny. You see, each and every one of us has what we call a shadow part. That's the part of us that we hide and cover and covet those pieces and aspects and things about ourselves that we find unpleasant or unacceptable. We tuck them away in the shadow, and someone will come into our life and reflect a light on that shadow, and that's when we see it. We see it in them. People come into our lives and they mirror back to us the pieces and parts of ourselves that we cannot, will not, do not want to see. And it's all a reflection of the relationship that we're having with ourselves. Do you love you? I mean, really love and accept you? Do you trust you? Do you trust your own thoughts and feelings? Do you honor you? Do you respect you? And where did you learn how to do that? Because so many of us have a disjointed or dysfunctional relationship with ourselves because of what we've seen and what we've been taught and what we've been told. And the relationship that we have with ourselves more often than not mirrors what we've been taught and what we've seen and what we've experienced. But in order to truly grow and evolve in our soul and our way of being, we want to develop a relationship with ourselves, a good, solid, loving, functional relationship with ourselves. So how do you do that, Miss Iyamma? How do you develop a relationship with yourself? Well, it starts here. Who am I? Not what do I do. Who am I when the lights are off and I'm naked and I stand before the mirror? Who am I? This is a question you must answer. Not who were you taught to be, who were you told to be, who you think you should be. Who are you? And there's a very simple way to find out. Ask yourself, what are those things about you that come forward, those things that make you tick, those things that pump you up, those things that drag you down? Who am I? You've got to answer that question. And don't judge yourself if you don't know it. So very often we think if we're 30 or 40 or 50 years old, we need to know. But how many of us have really sat and asked the question? We know what we do. We know what is expected of us. We know what our obligations and responsibilities are. But who am I in the middle of the night when I wake up and there's nobody there? Who am I in a crowd of people where I feel uncomfortable? Answer that question. The next step to really developing a healthy relationship with yourself is understanding what matters to you. What do you value? Do you value freedom? Do you value peace? Do you value external validation? How do you discover that? Again, pen to paper. What matters to me is. Because very often we go into relationships and settle for less than we want, deserve, or desire because we don't know what matters to us and we don't know how to ask for it. And more often than not, we don't expect to get it. But when you know who you are, when you know what you value, when you know what matters to you, every relationship that you go into, you will expect and you will receive reciprocation for who you are and what you give and what matters and what you value, because you will attract to you more of who you are. Like draws like. That's just the law. That's how it works. The next step, see yourself. See yourself at your best and see yourself as your worst, and don't judge it. Accept it. Self-acceptance. There are some things about me that I love, and there are some things about me that I'd rather nobody ever knew. But you know what I've learned to do? I've learned to put that stuff out front. I don't hide it, I don't deny it, I don't lie about it, and when it shows up in my face, either in someone else's behavior or when I'm in my stuff, doing my thing, I accept it. Self-acceptance. See yourself. Know yourself. Accept all of who you are without judging it. So very often we think we should be somewhere else, doing something else. We think we should be in another place in life and we should have more. Well, if you don't know who you are and what matters and what values, what you got is what you've created from a lack of knowledge of yourself. See yourself. Know yourself. Accept yourself without judgment. Appreciate yourself. No matter where you are today, you got you there. The good and the not so good. No matter who you are today, you've been with you through it all. Appreciate who you are. And finally, honor yourself. Honor your feelings. Honor your thoughts. Honor your gifts. Honor your strengths. Honor your weaknesses. Work on those things that need to be worked on. Give yourself permission to explore, to stand up, to fall down, to not be perfect all the time. Honor who you are, where you are, what you do, how you do it, and commit yourself to be better.
You are a choice-making individual, and that all of the conditions that you find yourself in your life, all of the circumstances of your life, all of the emotional reactions that you have to all of the people and all of the things and events and so on that take place in your life, you can't help the way that you are. You indeed are the product of all of the choices that you've made up until this moment. Circumstances do not make a man, they reveal him. Which means that in order to rid yourself or get past the negativity and the doubt and the judgment and the kinds of emotional reactions that get in your way, you have to put responsibility first and foremost on yourself. You have to rid yourself of the inclination to blame other people for what is wrong with you, to blame your circumstances, to look backwards in your life and look at your family and come up with all kinds of real nice explanations, but they really don't help you to get past these kinds of emotional reactions. There's the invisible part of you, the part of you that processes everything that you experience in your life. This is your mind, your consciousness, your soul, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you label it. It's just understanding that how you process and perceive yourself is determined not by what other people tell you, as much as you'd like to believe that, but in fact by how you have chosen to process yourself. Feel good about yourself. Treat yourself, cherish yourself as a valuable, important, significant, grand, divine creature, as someone who is unique and special in all the world. And feel that way about yourself wherever you go and carry yourself that way.
See, if you wake up every day and you say you're not a morning person, you're doing a serious disservice to yourself, because your attitude determines your altitude. A lot of your mornings start off bad because you've taken claim that you're not a morning person. Why would you not be a morning person when the whole goal is to wake up every morning? You got to be in the life-changing business. People have got to look at you like a light. Something should be in you that shows other people that there's hope. You don't know this about yourself, but you're going to be that person one day. And you got to start preparing for what you want to be. At least let God know you're glad you're alive. You don't let nobody else. You don't know it, but you're going to be a light one day. And people are going to look to you for that light.
I believe in winning the battle against yourself, because there's a lot of things you can control. When you wake up, I talk about making your bed. Make your bed, make sure your house is clean, make sure you get your breakfast, make sure you shower, shave, whatever you're doing, control that. Don't hit the snooze button. All these things are very important. That's been told a lot of times. Why don't you hit the snooze button? Because you wake up already failing. You're already behind the power curve. So what happens when you hit the snooze button? You may not make your bed. You may not pick the right clothes out in the time. So that's the mindset that I think is important to bring with you every day you go, everywhere you go in life.
Time is the inexplicable raw material of everything. With it, all is possible. Without it, nothing. The supply of time is truly a daily miracle, an affair genuinely astonishing when one examines it. You wake up in the morning and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. It is yours. It is the most precious of possessions. No one can take it from you. It is unstealable. And no one receives either more or less than you receive. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy of wealth and no aristocracy of intellect. Genius is never rewarded by even an extra hour a day. And there is no punishment. Waste your infinitely previous commodity as much as you will, and the supply will never be withheld from you. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. You cannot waste the next hour. It is kept for you. I have said the affair was a genuine miracle. Is it not? You have to live on this 24 hours of daily time. Out of it, you have to spend health, pleasure, money, content, respect, and the evolution of your immortal soul. Its right use, its most effective use, is a matter of the highest urgency and of the most thrilling actuality. All depends on that. Your happiness, the elusive prize that you are all clutching for, my friends, depends on that.
How do you have time for anything? How do you have time to dink around on Facebook? How do you have time to watch hours and hours of TV? How do you have time to do anything? It's simply because that's where you put the priority. So don't tell yourself you don't have time. Just say it's not important. And maybe it isn't, and that's okay. But if it is, make the time to get it done.
If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. Complain, point at your circumstances, give up your power, blame the government. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. It's hard to make a radical change in your behavior. It's hard to take ownership. It's hard to swallow the bitter pill that wherever you find yourself, at some point in time, you made an appointment to be there. That's hard.
Remember how you had a job interview for a job? We've had several of them in our lives. What did you do the night before that job, weeks before the job interview, when you knew you had it? You prepared you had a bowl out for your oatmeal, your cereal, whatever you had in the morning time. Your coffee cup was out. Your clothes were laid out. You studied, you rehearsed, you were ready. You brought your best self. You were going to war with yourself because you wanted that interviewer to see your best self. You won. You got the job. After a few months in that job, you look around, I got the job. Start to back off. The clothes aren't out. Hitting the snooze button. You don't get up on time anymore. You realize that you can still have this job and not be your best self. The interview you is gone. You have your job, but the interview you is gone. So winning the battle in the morning time is just that. It's that you wake up in the morning time and you own all this stuff. Because once you leave your house, the world then gets at you. And that's why I believe in not getting up in the morning time and checking your phone immediately. Everybody does that. They get up, the first thing they do is grab their phone, look at the phone. Maybe bad news on there. So how's your day start off? I don't go to the gym. You're caught up now on that phone. That's how your day starts. You lost control. So once you win that battle in the morning time, then once you go out, now you've won. You go outside your house, you may lose your job, you may have a bad hit, but you won something. So you're going into battle having already won something. Having already won. So then, if you hit the snooze button, you go out, you're just defeated already. You're behind the power curve. Now you've won something. You feel better about yourself. So now you're able to take these hits along the way.
Well, we all know sleep is really good for you. In fact, I cheat myself because I could probably, if I could sleep a little longer, I would probably be better, because all medical science tells you that how important, 7-8 hours of sleep is for each person. What I want to say to you is, when you wake up. Don't sleep during the day. Don't get a little bit unconscious and let life pass you. Be intentional. Go for it. Be in the moment. Be alert. Be aware. Seize the time. We don't have much of it. I guess what I'm really saying is, when you're awake, stay awake. Then when you sleep, it's a little bit more legal.
If one cannot arrange that an income of 24 hours shall exactly cover all proper items of expenditure, one does muddle one's whole life indefinitely. We shall never have any more time. We have, and we have always had, all the time there is. It's not that difficult to get something started. You run it for a while, and after a while it starts running you. That's part of the challenge. I told my staff one day, giving birth to a tiger is one thing, learning how to ride it is something else, right? Sometimes you start it and then it turns around and starts giving you all kinds of trouble. If you're working already 8-10 hours a day, that's about it. You just can't work much more than that. Bursts at a time, you can work 12, 14, 16, right? I'm sure we've all learned to do that, put in the extra time. But after a while, you pretty well have to put your life in balance, or your health is in jeopardy, and your heart's in jeopardy, your blood pressure is in jeopardy, a lot of things, if you don't stay in balance. So you don't have to put any more hours, probably. All you have to do is just make better use of the hours. A cliche we've all heard. It's not the hours you put in, it's what you put in the hours that counts.
It's an urge. Truth be told, every champion has felt it. Every president has felt it. Every king has felt it. Every lion has felt it. Every winner has felt it. Every soldier has felt it. Every victorious person has felt it. The urge to quit. Don't you give up on your dream. I don't care if you don't have the money, you don't have the help, and you don't have the family for it, and you don't have the background for it, and you don't have the friends for it. Don't you give up on your dream. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. It may take you twice as long. You may have to take courses and classes. You might not read as fast. You might not move as quick. You might not have as much. But don't you quit. Don't you quit. Don't you quit. You do make a difference. You do make a difference. You do make a difference. As weak as you are, as tired as you are, as many mistakes as you made, you do make a difference. There is something they would lose if you were not there. There was something that they would miss if you were not there. You do make a difference. You do make a difference. You do make a difference. Keep hopping. It's for people that are trying to hop their way back home. Come hell or high water, doing the best they can with what they got. That's who we are, doing the best we can with what we got. And we may not break any ribbons and we may not get any trophies, but if we can learn how to hang on in there, we'll be all right. I will not lie to you, I feel like going on. But I have seen days I did not want to get out of bed, didn't want to put on clothes, and didn't even feel like brushing my teeth. I've seen days so dark that I just want to keep driving, and I didn't even care where I ended up or what you called me. They came, and they passed, and they came to pass. Kept the faith. I kept it. I lost a lot of stuff. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of strength. I lost a lot of courage. I lost a lot of time. I lost a lot of money, but I kept down on my knees. I was still believing. Broke, I was believing. Lonely, I was believing. Betrayed, I was. If you lose a job, keep the faith. If you lose a spouse, keep the faith. If you bury your child, keep the faith. If you have to downsize, keep the faith. If you have to move in with your mama, keep the faith. If you're at your wit's end, keep the faith. If you have to catch the bus, keep the faith. If you have to numb, keep the faith. If you get sick, keep the faith. If you lose your kidneys, keep the faith. If you got heart trouble, keep the faith. You might not get a new heart, but you gotta keep your faith.
Can you see? Can you see through the darkness? Can you see what's around you? Can you feel the emptiness? Can you feel the loneliness? Darkness is upon you. Darkness surrounds you. The darkness is trying to bring you down. The darkness is trying to take everything from you. But yet, you continue to push forward. Can you see? Do you understand what it means to stand alone? Can you see the light? It builds you up. Even when you think you're weak, you have a way to be strong. This is not the time to quit. This is not the time to give up. Yes, darkness is upon you. But there will come a time the sun will shine. Dawn is upon you now. Can you really see the light? Can you really understand the light within you? Your journey can be seen millions and millions of miles away because you traveled through the darkness. You fought through the darkness. You were down in the darkness. You cried in the darkness. You wandered in the darkness. It is time for you to welcome the light. This emptiness that you are feeling right now, it is only a temporary match, a temporary thing that is going on inside of you right now. It's only temporary, but it is necessary. It is necessary that you struggle. It is necessary that you feel alone. It is necessary that you have to continue to go forward. Nothing can stop this because that light has already been there. That light is embedded in you. That light exists in you. Dawn is coming. The sun is going to rise, and you will see the light within you. Build yourself up. Strengthen your mind. Strengthen your body. Strengthen your soul. And welcome the dawn. Darkness exists at this moment in your life. You're feeling like there's nothing that you can do. You feel that you have no power. You feel that you have no strength. Yet, you are walking through darkness. Can you see?
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living." Now, I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept, having something to fall back on. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test, was 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for a graduation ceremony, but hey, I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable.
We have the power to shift from making excuses to creating results. You have the power to use today to make a choice to get really fit or to create the financial life that you want. You have the power to go out in the world and inspire people. You have the power to use your work as a chance to birth creativity into your world and to uplift other people. You have the power to do your part to change the world. And that's really what this video is about. It's about success. It's about doing genius level work. It's about making your dreams come true, and I want to give you some simple ideas on that. Number one, the number one reason we don't achieve success and we resign ourselves to mediocrity and we get swallowed into failure and discouragement, and it becomes sometimes so deep that we can't see the possibilities that our lives could be. I mean, your life doesn't have to be your current life 30 days from now, but most people can't see that. And the number one reason is this word called grit. Researchers say the number one defining factor of whether we become successful or average is whether we have grit. Grit is the ability to stay true to your vision and not dilute it when you get laughed at. Grit is the ability to try an innovation, experience failure, and to say, I'm going to continue and I'm actually going to learn and use that experience to get me closer on my path to the mountaintop. I mean, what the ordinary person sees as failure, the master simply sees as part of the process of refining your craft. So, number one, you've got to have grit. You've got to literally, when you get knocked down, force yourself to get back up, because then you start to develop a new brain. Yes, you develop a new neural pathway. Yes, you develop new muscle memory. And yes, you develop confidence. Remember that every time you get knocked down, it's an opportunity for you to develop more confidence, develop more experience, develop more inner power. Okay, every time you do something that you didn't feel like doing, like getting back up after you failed, or staying true to yourself after you've been laughed at or told it can't be done, literally, you become more powerful. And every single time you don't feel like persisting, and you do, you take back your power to the thing that you gave your resistance to. So number one, just think about grit. Number two, simply remember the incredible importance of your influences. I mean, you know this, you've heard me talk about this, I'm bringing it to you again so you remember. If you spend your days watching the news, playing with victims, being around people who gossip, being around people who spend their best hours in entertainment, on video games, too much TV, too much SMS, too much reading of trashy novels, then literally their beliefs and their behaviors will infuse your beliefs and your behaviors through what scientists call emotional contagion.